Welcome back, guys. Anyway, I've got a clock for you to see. I will admit we've got damage because of GW wasn't too good at the way they packaged it, and so I'm going to have to repair that also. But realistically, I am thrilled with this clock. It's a New England Clock Company clock, and it also has Westminster. Let's take a look. Now, realistically, I didn't know how big this clock was. When Goodwill puts, if they do put the measurement, you really can't ever trust it. There's one place there, everything is 14 inches by 14 inches by 14 inches. And it doesn't matter if it's an inch square or 3 feet, that's what they put on there. So anyway, this is a clock. I think it's absolutely beautiful. This is a snow scene in here with a snow covered, I'm not going to call it a cabin, but a house there and a barn back there, cows, has Westminster in it. Let's give a quick measurement. Here I'm 16 and a half. And if it had the topper, it doesn't. Right now it's at 25 and a quarter. And so there's supposed to be another piece here, here, and here. And like I said, I didn't really realize how big this clock was. I'm happy it's a big clock. Humongous face on this thing. Here's the pieces that, let's see, this, I don't know where this one goes. Looks like it goes right here. That looks like these probably come out because this wasn't glued, but just the same, that's where it belongs. It did come with the original instructions on how to unpack the clock, and I'm going to guess set it up. I haven't looked at it yet. We'll put that back in the envelope. It does have a pendulum on it. I don't know if I can get this thing to ring or not. This here is to reset your Westminster. It does quarter, half hour, 3/4 an hour, and if it's off, you can reset it by using this. Okay, it needs cleaned. Let's see if I. Yeah, it's not. It'll run, but give me a second. So let's turn this around and open the back. I have to be careful because besides those two pieces broke off, this leg's broke off. I just have it setting in place. This stuff can be glued and then possibly re-stained and whatnot, but it used to be all one piece and now it's not, so that's the only part that made me not the happiest. Try to get all the pieces back in, but we're going to open the back up. Holding on to the leg so I can put it back in. That leg's gonna be one of the first things I get back on because that is a bit of a pain. This here is a 218C with full Westminster chime. I don't see a date on here. Normally, I do believe most of these clocks were built in the 70s sometime. I'll wax this up so it'll look new again, we'll say. And here you can see the trigger to get the Westminster to work. Let's bring you a little closer on that. This does have a slip clutch in it, I do believe. So let's try this rod again. So anyway, that's the movement. I think I'm going to go ahead and take this thing apart, clean it so that way it has fresh oil. I haven't tried this out to see if it'll keep ticking or not. Normally they say if it does keep ticking, then you should just go ahead and re-oil it on this side and the other side. It does no good to do just one side because it needs both sides done. That way it can re-loosen the oil that might start gumming up, and your clock should be good again for another 3 years, 3 to 5 years. This here is a sealed clock, so there's normally, unless someone left the door open when they threw it in the closet or wherever, normally this should always be clean inside because it is a sealed case. So after I get the movement out, I'm not even going to touch it right away. I'm going to repair the case because I need, number one, that leg to get the glue to dry and be stable, so when I do get the movement fixed and put back in, or cleaned and oiled and put back in, then I don't have to worry about the clock falling over. Like right now, it's just balancing on that broken leg. So I took the hands off already. I took these 2 screws out, which there's only one on each side. There is a place for 2 on each one of these brackets, but the one on this side only had 1. The top had 2 on each of them. Let's take this taper pin out so we can get this spring out of here, and that way I don't have to worry about possibly breaking it. This is a taper pin. Now that this is off, you don't want to break that. That's about $5 or $6 right there. You can recognize this type of a, what do they call this, a leader or whatever. I think they don't make that type of clock anymore, and I almost wonder if that's what this movement is. Can't remember the name at the moment. And so I'll go ahead and finish taking those 2 screws off, then we can pull this out and then start letting down the springs. So I got the 2 screws out there, a single one there, and a single one there, and I was wondering, why isn't this thing coming out? They got another bracket coming down which had a single screw in it. So that makes the good difference of why there weren't 2 on those brackets. So let me set this movement aside. Tell that's heavily greased right in there. Old grease or whatever you want to call it. It's black. Doesn't hurt anything out here. But considering, like I say, with the movement inside the box, it is pretty clean. I mean, you can tell the tarnish or the age in there, but just the same, I'd like to get this refreshed so that way I know it's good. Let's get to the box now, or the case. It has seen some damage. Something fell. You can tell how it skittered, and then there's a ledge, and that popped out, and then just took that out. Excuse me. And that's not from mail. A few little scratches, nicks, whatever. So it does have age to it. I might have a problem hiding that. I might have to, well, I might have a problem with that. I'm going to probably have to re-stain once I get that glued in. And maybe use a little fill. But all in all, considering, it's not too bad. It's got a little bit of chipping there. It does have a few splatters, little splatters of paint, pink and white. Let me set this leg back in here, and I'll give you a close-up of the scene there. So this is the winter scene that's in here. Quite nice. And then the pendulum sits so far back, I'm not sure if you'd see it swinging, but you might see something with the light coming in. And this is a cardboard picture, actually. Because this has thickness in here. The glass does have the paint on it around the circle, but this here is cardboard. It's actually in pretty good shape. This is a dial, in which, well, I see a little scratch there, but because of it being protected by the case, it's in pretty good shape. So I'd venture to say the gold and these sprits around here, and the black, and more than likely this is all paint on the glass. The picture is all the cardboard. And it does say something down below on that picture. Home to Thanksgiving. I've never used this before, but it's stainable. And it says don't use anything that's over 3/4 of an inch. So if I have to layer more than 3/4 of an inch, I plan on doing 2 or 3 layers depending on what I need. But I'm going to start off here, and oh, this is, as you saw, it says stainable. Gotta cut the tip off of it. And I'm going to use this to smooth it out the best I can. Of course, I'm going to have to do some sanding. And that piece didn't set down too well. Let me get the rest of this. So it's not the best, but as you can see, the damage is in here. I'm not too concerned. I'm hoping to get the coloring close, and so from the 10-foot distance it should look fine. Let me see what I can come up with. There's a broken leg I got fixed, and then put a little bit in and some of the sanding. Let's just see. My first attempt. This is going to take layers of stain to get this down to a darker color. Let's try our next color. So maybe you can see it. Should be able to. I don't think it darkened it enough. And of course it's taken on the red hue because that is a red oak in the stain. But it is darkening up, and putting a finish on it, it'll look so much different. But I might screw things up. I'm going to try this. It might take off the stain that's already on there, or who knows, but hopefully maybe it'll darken it up more. Well, I went over the whole clock with the scratch guard stuff. Now I'll just let it dry and then maybe try it again. Let's see what this looks like after it dries good. Okay, I used a little bit of this on my finger and rubbed it in. And let's see what you think. It's still wet, but it darkened it up to where I don't care, I can't see it. So I steel wooled everything lightly, and I plan on putting a finish on this in order to cover that stain up and also, well, seal where I had to put the filler. Clear semi-gloss. It's not the best, but like I say, for a 10-foot distance, I don't think it looks too bad. And it's gonna work. You can see it's almost a paint look to it, but you can be looking at the face and the sound. That's my opinion. So this is the movement of the clock. It has a slip clutch. You can see it only goes so far. If you need to get the right tick-tock sound, you can push it a little bit further this way or this way. And of course you'll have your pendulum on, so you just hold on to your pendulum and pull it one way or another to listen to it. So anyway, on this movement, there's a number 621623, a UN, I do believe, and a 6/68A. So maybe this is made in 68. So you want to get pictures of everything here before you start taking it apart. So that's what I'll do next, is get pictures of everything. So the first thing I'd like to do is take this off because I don't want to damage it. And I find out real quick. It is adjustable. Yeah, there's my screw. It is adjustable, but in so many words, it's no biggie to me because I do know it's just got to be able to pass the wheel in there. And so I'm not going to scribe the metals. I don't like the idea of scribing the metal. So this part is this slip clutch. And I'd like to actually take these off too, but those are all in there as part of this, so that might be one of the difficult things, is getting this back on as I'm putting the frame together. So I think the next thing we do, we already have these pulled down so there's no spring action in there. I'm going to go ahead and take these E-clips off. Yeah, there's not one there. Looks like it's held on by the triggers. Make sure you get a good picture of that so you get the better idea of what's going on. So I'll be back after I take these off and take some of these clips off. This here is a lever that you can trigger this thing to gong in case your Westminster is off. But of course it's not going to work if it's too close to the hour or too close to the quarter hour, 3/4 hour, half hour, whatever. It's got to be far enough away that, so in other words, if it just rang and you can tell it's off, you can hit this and make it ring again until you hit the proper hours. You can see all the old oil, this turning into a shellac, I guess we'll call it. Now these are all pointing the same way, the clicker parts, so that's going to be easy enough. And okay, the hose shaft comes out, which is nice. Now I'm going to pay attention to these because some of these might be bigger, the springs or something, so let's take a look at that after I get these out. Quite a bit of oil on there, but it's inside the springs, so let me slide that out of there. Will it? Nope. So I'm going to leave them in a row the way they came out so I can figure out, make sure the shafts are the right size and whatnot. Sometimes there's a slight difference. You really got to look. This would come out, that gear is right in the way, and so are the musical deals. Oh, there it is. This is nice because it tells me I can put it back in after I have this back together again. Now this one here, I don't know if I can get that thing to come out. That's not a happy camper. There we go. So, just to show you, let me back this up a little bit. From the position here, this one's clear on the outside here. This one's in the middle. They look the same so far. And this one's clear over here. You notice the difference? I should definitely hope so. So that's something to note. So let's go ahead and take this screw out so we can get this lever out over here. And I don't see a clip anywhere. This does have a spring on here, so I need to get a picture of that in case I missed it. So this actually has two levers on it. And I don't see... Let's see if this thing falls apart here, as in two pieces. Oh, I need to release the spring, I forgot that. There we go. This lever is stuck because it's setting through here. And that gear's in the way. So this is something that's going to be good to remember. That I can't get it out. I have to put it in as I'm putting the plates back on. So let me get a picture of these two to show what order they're in, because this one has that little foot. This one has two pieces on it. Oh, it's falling out. Good. They just go together. No specific order. Well, this one will be because it's screwed in. So this makes the difficulty level go up because of that. Let's get a picture of that in order of the way it's sitting. So these gears here, this one has a place where that has the screws in it, and this one has a place for it. So by looks of it, depending on where this is setting, it'll be easy enough to get this one set, and then this one set for the chime to actually be in sync. So let me take those two E-clips off and then release these two. Took the clip off that this chime rod, which this one will be for the actual gong. So I have all that off. So actually, now that we have the winders out of the way, maybe it's good to take pictures again, because it's pretty empty looking in there. And this might give you a better idea of how they go on. This is going to be pointing down when I pull this plate off. Now you can take these off too if you want. I'm not going to deal with that because they already are adjusted, let's just say. So I'm just going to take these 4 nuts off after I get this up on the legs. And then we're going to try to carefully take this apart so we can get a picture of, let's call it the top view of these gears. Okay, let's try to get this thing apart. This hammer system comes off fairly nicely, so that's going to be the last thing that goes back on. So let's get a picture of this. Then we'll spin it around and take a look. So let's pull this apart. There's the musical part of it. It's good to get pictures so you can get both sides of the gear to know just what that gear looks like when you're putting it back together again. So obviously this here is the part, the music side. And then this side over here is the gong side. Let's see about pulling all this out. Okay, that one stays. And then this one here is the time. Now I'm separating these gears for the time being because I want to make sure that none of these gears look so close, and if they do, I can look at them and make sure they go, or take a special note where they go. So that's a one gear, which I'm not taking apart. That's pressed on there, and it's normally wobbly. Same with this one here. If you had to get that off of there, you can take a screwdriver underneath there, I'd imagine, start prying back and forth, and they do come off, but you're going to start wearing them out, and that's going to be another timing issue for you. But if that's wore out, broke, or whatever, you can replace that. That one goes onto this gear here. So let's take this stuff and put it in the cleaner. I can't get these clickers out. They've been, let's call it, smashed on. I see an X there, so it's not important as long as they still click or still move. And it needs clean. That spring needs to be rebent again. And they're actually smashed to the side too. So I'll be careful. I can get this clear out of the way and then rebend that back down and get it back into place. So let me look over my gears. If I see anything strange, I'll let you know. Okay, just so I don't have a heart attack, I took a picture of this set, and this set. They don't necessarily look alike, but there is a special note. Those fans are different, so that's the way I know that fan goes over there and this fan goes on this side. So anyway, let me get these things cleaned and I'll be right back with a couple seconds. I got it clean. Ran a toothpick through each one of those holes, both sides and on both plates. And now to try to get this thing back together again. Had a bit difficult time getting this piece in here, so I went ahead and did off camera because I had to wiggle it in through this plate here, and there's a gear in the way, so you had to get it in there just right, and then slid it through this one, and I have the two bars look exactly alike. They're equal now, and so I guess they go up together. Went ahead and oiled in between here, and before I slid this one on, I oiled this one, and this one's solid, so I didn't have to oil it. So when I had this in the cleaner, I didn't take this off. Well, this here gear slid off on its own, but it's on there now. I tried pulling it off and it's stuck on there, so that's maybe a good thing. I don't know if it's supposed to come off or not, but it sure did. So to put this on, there's a threaded hole right there, and we have this keeper, I guess we'll call it. See if I can pop that in there. There's a hole there for it to hold into. Then you have this screw that has a collar on it, because this is not supposed to get tight. It's snug. So I'm going to put this part on it now. And that's what the star will say hits to let it know when it's time. So let me get the keeper on there. Oil that too. Now we're going to have to figure this one out because we don't know yet on where it needs to sit. That's pretty tight. I'm looking at this right here. So because this is so difficult and I haven't done one before, and just to say, I didn't know the spring was here. I knew a spring fell out. Looking at my pictures that saved me, I could see I needed to take this off so I get the spring in here. And then we had another spring that's on this shaft here that I saw in the pictures. And so I had to take all this stuff off to get to that. And then this here, to adjust this, technically speaking, it isn't equal to this other shaft that looks just like it. This has a pin in here, and this has to just float a little below that pin, so when the clock is running, we'll say, and it's getting ready to trigger, it'll lift so this one will release and it'll get caught by one of these levers here because it's set and ready to start gonging, or playing the Westminster, I should say. Once it plays the Westminster, then this here pin, this here will start going around. Before that starts going around, this will cock and drop to whatever hour it is, technically speaking, right there, and then it'll go ahead and gong the hour that's supposed to be. Now I'll try to run this thing, but it is hard on the fingers because I haven't got the winders in yet. I don't really want them in yet because I'm trying to get this thing to work. So this has to be pushed up, and the gong side has to be pushed up. So let's trigger this. Right now it just got done doing the full Westminster and is parked. Now it should do the quarter hour of the Westminster, so the gong won't even obviously activate. So see, it's slowly lifting. I don't know if I'm turning this right or not. Yeah, there we go. So it slowly lifts and it cocks. I don't know if you saw the fan turn or not. So there's playing the Westminster. And it's done. This is hard on the fingers, let me tell you. So anyway, let's turn this a little bit more. Each time it ticks like that, this here is supposed to take off. So I need a little bit more of adjustment. Anyway, it's this one here, and it's not releasing the pin when it should. So let me move this up just a little bit more and do that. I'm going to look at the pin. Just moved a little bit. Now let's see if this thing will release as we're turning the minute hand. And watch this thing here, it's going to trigger it. So there's playing the the second part of the Westminster. And it should stop here. So we have it stopped there. Now let's bring this around to the next quarter hour. Oop, I kind of passed it. See, right? My finger's not strong enough to really turn it because it is feeling sharp. So here's the third part of the Westminster. It shuts off. And now let's play. Okay, right there was a quarter hour. It should have triggered. So here's playing the full Westminster. You can hear it, right? That's going to go up and trigger the onto the snail. Now if I get my fingers out of the way, it'll oop, and then I'm turning it the wrong way. Now you notice this pin is sitting clear up out of the way, and that's what we also want there as it stops. So here's coming up to lift higher in order to let the clock know it's almost ready to start gonging. There, you hear that? And shuts off where it needs to. So let me tell you, that almost felt like a headache getting this thing together, and that's why I couldn't record it, because there's so many pieces in this thing per se, and that's why I separated each train, and each train is the gears that go for the music, the time, and the gong. So I still got some pieces left, which that's because I need to install this now, and I think I'm going to have to separate a little bit in order to get these in there. So this is already loose. And these we're going to fling onto those. I was trying to put it on the wrong side. And this here will be the part that holds these, or I should say it doesn't hold it, it's part that makes it gong. I have to separate the plates again because this part fits right inside there on the shaft of this. Some of my fingers hurt, but I got that situated, and I have the gong working fine, the Westminster, and like I say on the Westminster, this rod here that comes down to the bottom, if it's off, all you have to do is just bump this and well, it's wound up, and it'll go ahead and play until it's to where you want it to be. So each time you bump it until it's where it's supposed to be. That star wheel that was underneath here, there was one that was taller, and that taller one is the one that tells the clock it's time to gong. And so far it seems to be working fine. So let's take a look at one of these. Now on these, I was watching another guy, and this hole here, instead of marking it, he says most of the time, I don't know if you can see that spot there or not, that there is, this here is the rivet that holds the spring where it starts. And so he says usually that hole is lined up with that. This one here, it's lined up with that. On this big one, it's not lined up, it's clear over here. So I guess if you want to try to line those up with that, fine. I don't see where there's ever has been a problem so far for the few I've done, but I'm going to guess if you can't get this plate back on when it's lined up to there, turn it a little bit and then start smacking it again to see if you can get that thing off. So anyway, I also watched him. Instead of taking this thing and smacking it down onto a 2x4 or whatever, what he does, he uses a piece of wood. I don't have one in here right now. He just smacks that. And there it is. That looked easy enough to me. And so off camera, I'm going to go ahead and take these apart, clean them, oil them, put them back together again. And I won't oil it until I get it in here, because I'm going to use just regular synthetic clock oil on this and see how well it does. I have been using spring oil, but I really think that's mainly for, let's say, your kitchen clocks, or your clocks with the big springs that stick out. That way it'll coat them nicely. These here are more of a confined space. I'm sure it probably works in there too. I haven't had a problem yet. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take these apart, and then to put them back together again, I'll line that spot up. I wound this up a little bit so I could get that to move, and I wanted to see if this would pass. And let's say it ticks, so it's passing, it's not skipping the teeth that are down inside here. So I'm happy with that. I think I'm gonna install it in the box because it's made too hard to, let's say, get everything perfect while it's in the on the wall compared to in the case. Now to get the screws back in and install it in the box. So if you know the Westminster, you heard that it was off. And so what you do is you loosen this screw here so it's not making contact inside. And then you turn this to try to get it back into time, I guess we'll call it. Let me set this up so, because our hour isn't ringing right. There's where it needs to shut off. I don't even know where I'm at. So that should have been the end of it, because that's the hour. So now it should be in time because it just rang the hour on that star gear. It's got the taller one. That's what tells it what hour it is. And by the way, the star gear, I thought that was odd that it kind of felt loose. And this thing wasn't, it kept slipping because the hour would miss or whatever. So I had to take this around on the front and take that star wheel off, and then I had the best I could do. I took the screwdriver and boogered up the edges around the where the peg goes through, and that made it tight enough that it's staying on and staying in place. should have been the half hour. And that was the 3/4. A lot better. Now I can go ahead and tighten the screws up on this wheel. So we're going to take this and set it aside so I can get my case that I fixed up enough to be a 10 by 10, 10 feet away and 10-10 eyesight. And now we can set this in here. And screw it back in with those screws. And so here we got the clock done. This rod is there so in case you spin this around too fast and don't let it chime, you can get where the 1/4 hour is on for the Westminster. That's for. Anyway, another beautiful Old English. Is Old English? Excuse me. The New England Clock Company clock with Westminster. Skill level. If you can do this, you can do grandfather clocks. I will admit, and what you see in the video, and I might have even put some things in there, words mentioning it, but I did separate the certain gears because I was getting a little bit worried. There's so much there, and I will admit when it comes to this clock or some of the other ones, I wonder, did I really do that? So it just takes time. I go out and I feed the birds peanuts just to relax, and then I come back to it. And that's like any clock. I'll have to take a break first. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this clock here and rebuilding it or whatnot. Don't forget to subscribe because it's free, and also leave a good thumbs up. Anyway, God bless. By the way, just in case someone's watching.